Welcome to part 2 on the 2001 Polaris Xplorer 250 4x4. If you guys missed the last video, we picked this thing up for 400 bucks. Crazy good deal for a 4x4, but the catch is that it was locked up. So the seller stated he doesn't know what happened, but he went to turn it over one day and it wouldn't turn over with the electric start or the pull start. So he decided to sell it to me for 400 bucks. So I was kind of thinking it was like the starter was locked up, or something going on with the starter causing it not to rotate the engine over. But we got it home, started diagnosing it, and we found that was not the case. We couldn't get that lucky. Check this out. We took out the whole engine, by the way. It's all on the bench over here. The piston was basically welded into a cylinder. We had to pound that off with a hammer, but check out the piston. It got hot and seized to that cylinder. So piston was junk. Cylinder has huge gouges in it. So that was not salvageable. And then by pounding the cylinder away from the piston to get that off, I think we bent the rod. So we would have needed probably a new crank and rod, new cylinder, a new piston. And these parts for these machines are extremely expensive. You wouldn't think because it's an old machine, but a cylinder like this is like $400, $500. And that's when we reached out to Powersports Nation. And I asked them, I said, can you guys supply the top end and the crank for this thing? And they said, yeah, we can rebuild the crank for you. We've got brand new top end kits in stock we can send you. Or they said we can do you one better and send you a freshly rebuilt engine. And who am I to turn away a freshly rebuilt engine from Powersports Nation? So that's what they sent me. So huge thank you to those guys over at Powersports Nation. They rebuilt this engine and it was ready to go on the shelf, and I think it shipped in like 2 days. So extremely fast shipping, and they have a ton of engines ready to go in stock on the shelf. So if you guys are looking for engines for your UTV or ATV, Powersports Nation is a great option. The prices are unbeatable as well. So they have a huge selection. And if you're anything like me, you've got engine parts laying around, cases laying here, engines that need to be rebuilt. If you guys forgot how to put it back together, this would be a great option. You don't have to think about it. All you have to do is go to their website, click a button, and you have an engine sent to you. All you have to do is swap it in. And that's what we're going to be doing today with this one. All right, let's open this in. Sent a already oiled up air filter on there. It's awesome. Let's take a look inside. They package these engines really well. That's solid foam. Okay. Look at that. There it is. All right, let's open that up on the bench and take a look. I think it even comes with the oil pump. All right, so first thing I noticed is that they sent gaskets with it. It looks like the exhaust gasket in there. A couple O-rings. That's pretty nice. Ooh, even the spark plug's attached to it. Packing is really nice on it. Definitely looks like a brand new engine. That is a good looking engine. Wow. Doesn't that look brand new? Look at that thing. So on all their engines, they actually test them out to make sure they run. So this was probably in a stand and they hooked it all up and made sure it ran before they ship it out, which is awesome. So it's probably semi-broken and even. And you can see the oil down the oil pump, so we know that's working. So I'm guessing they checked the oil pump, checked everything to make sure it was perfect. Yeah, everything feels really good. Even put the spark plug in there. They use NGK plugs. I mean, that is a good looking engine. So what we can do now is just swap this right in the machine. So we're gonna install this right away, and then we can get everything else on it after that. And then we'll like test compression, all that stuff afterwards, after the first initial run. But you can see everything's greased up. Brand new seals look good. I mean, everything looks perfect on this thing. And I trust them 100%. They sent me a free engine for my Polaris Razor 900, and that thing's still running perfect. So I really trust those guys to rebuild pretty much any engine. They do a great job over there. All right, we gotta get our mounts on. This one's gonna go like this. Just like this. The rear. Alright, that's in. Well, that was a lot easier than rebuilding the whole thing, I'll tell you that. That was pretty easy. Alright, so there's a mount right here with a nut. We tighten that down. There's a mount up here. We tighten that one down. And there's one more mount holding this engine in place, which is right down there. So now the engine is nice and tight in there. Doesn't move very much at all. So that looks good. We can start adding everything back together. I think the first thing we're going to do is take the old stator out of the case here and get that mounted up. So it looks like it might be marked. You can see the little arrow there. There's a little black mark right there. The previous owner must have marked that at some point. You can see it right there. Keep an eye on that. Alright, that's off. Well, it looks like it already has a mark on there. You can see there's a little mark there engraved into the stator. So this now pulls out through here. It looks like it's siliconed in. So we can try to get that grommet out of there. Pushed out. I believe the whole thing can be pulled through here. There we go. So on the new engine, the mark is right there. So we're going to line up this line here. You can see it was marked right there with black Sharpie at one point. And then the line there. We're going to line that up with that arrow mark there on the case. So first thing we have to do is feed this through the back end here, which it looks like the pump is kind of in the way. Try to fish that through without taking off the pump. Let's see. Hopefully this end will go in. I don't know if it will. Alright, we got that finally through. And this is going to be lined up with, where's the little notch? Right here. So we're going to have to pull this through a little bit more. But that little grommet is in there. So that prevents water and stuff from going in the case halves and rusting everything out. So pull that through. Alright, stator is in. Now if you guys can see that line, but it's directly lined up with that arrow on the case. So our ignition timing should be spot on there. Alright, so the hole down here is where the starter goes through. And it actually mounts from the back and the front, which is a big pain in the butt when you want to change out the starter. So the clutch on the other side has to come off, the cover has to come off, the backing plate has to come off, then you can get to the starter. And we're going to put 2 bolts in it right here to hold it on. That drills in to right here and right here. And then there's 1 mounting hole in the back holding it in. So we can go from the back and try to get this in. Alright, I think right there. Alright, starter's all secure in there, looking good. And then on the other side, we had to connect the positive going to the solenoid right here that's tucked underneath. Alright, next is the flywheel. So because this engine was locked up, we have no idea if this thing has spark. We were never able to test for spark. So we're just going to take a close look at the flywheel, make sure the magnets are fine. A lot of times these magnets can break in half. These are all good, it looks like, but these can break in half and it reverses polarity. So it can mess up your spark. We'll take a screwdriver, make sure all the magnets are still magnetic. That looks good. And then the little slot for the woodruff key is right there. So I'll slide on right to the woodruff key here. So we can get that on. It's gonna slide on just like this. Make sure that woodruff key is in place. Just like that. And you should not be contacting the starter. The starter pops out and contacts the flywheel. So if you're hitting the starter, something's wrong. Then you've got your washer and your little nut, and we'll get that torqued down. And then the piece here goes on for the pull start. So that takes 3 bolts that go right in here. It doesn't matter which way this goes on, just as long as those bolts are in. And that is for the pull start to grab onto. There's little holes in it, and as you pull, it grabs those holes and turns the flywheel. Alright, here we go. Alright, we had to rewind the pull start mechanism. That came all undone. Just going to tighten this down. Hold that in place. Got 1 more screw for it. Right, now, that looks good. Right on here. But we don't want water getting in there. We're going to put some gasket maker on the outside of it. And on the cover piece here, so that is sealed completely. Well, brake cleaner, spray off that case, and with this, so we can actually put it right on the case half here. You might have to rotate this over just a little bit to see if you can get those holes to line up. There we go. Just make sure it pulls over. Yep. That looks good. Alright, working on the clutch side, before we put the cover on, there's a big ground wire right here that's supposed to be attached. And that goes right in there like that. Get that torque back down. Alright, first thing we're going to install is a plate that goes right here. Goes just like that. So that helps keep the starter from moving back and forth. Alright, then the clutch backing plate goes on. So big end towards the secondary. That goes on just like that. And there's, I think, 4 bolts that go in there. Going to go on right like this. That holds that down tight to there. So the cover doesn't rub against the clutch. These actually have little tabs you have to bend over so those don't back themselves out and wreck the clutch. You just strip that one out. All right, now we can get the primary and secondary on. We want to loop the belt in between the primary first, like that. Lay it down. And we can get the secondary out. Take that bolt out of there. There's actually a little spacer in there too, like that. So there's bolt, lock, washer, washer, and that little sleeve there. And then for the secondary, I'm going to put that in right here. There's going to be bolt, lock, washer, and then the other washer. So this is going to go on like this. So we'll get this one on first. And probably get the secondary on first, and then we'll work on the primary. Hard to do with one hand. Okay. drop it. Ugh. There we go. Now, gotta get that to slide on. And this one can go on here. Probably should have ordered up a new belt for it. This one's pretty bad, but we'll see if it works today. Gotta see if everything else works before we order one up, so. All right. We are going to take an air compressor and just blow that out quick. It's pretty dirty. Let's see what comes out of the clutch here. Oh yeah. That was pretty nasty. Alright, primary going on. Get the belt through. And this just pops on like that. And then we can get our bolt in. Remember, this one's got the little sleeve piece that goes in there. Nice. All right, coming from the oil tank up here is a gravity fed line that goes down here and into the oil pump right there. And we just confirmed a bunch of blue oil coming out of that line as it is gravity fed into the pump. So the pump is now getting oil, and that's all set, all tightened down. So if the pump works, we should be lubricating this engine. Now the cover goes on for the clutch. Cover looks like it's in really good shape. A lot of times when the bearings wear out on the engine, this clutch cover will have a lot of wear through it, and this one doesn't have anything like that, so it'll wear through on the bottom here. This one looks really good. So hopefully we can get this back in. All right, cover is on, and then down here, you can see there's a cable going down to the oil pump. We hooked that up, and now you can see that's working properly. So we're gonna have to bleed that pump once we get this thing running, and oil will come out, I believe, of the bleed screw right there. All right, here's the manifold. We're gonna zip that off of there and swap it onto the other cylinder. That one felt pretty loose. All right, let's see if the gasket kit included a new O-ring for that. All right, so we can get that O-ring out. And we can replace it with a brand new one here. All right, that looks good. All right, we're gonna put a little blue Loctite on the bolts here. I noticed those were coming loose. We don't want that. So a little bit on there, a little bit on this one. All right, and then we can install it. Take that cap out of there. I don't think it matters which way it goes. Looks like it's the same both ways. So. Alright, time to go through the carb. Last video we didn't even go through the carb because the machine was locked up and obviously it was just a tear down, so we didn't even look at the carb. So let's take a peek at this, see what's going on. The outside is filthy. It's a good one for the ultrasonic cleaner. Alright, is the inside clean? Yeah, it is actually pretty clean. Wow. Look how clean that is. That's not bad at all. But we're still going to clean it out and go through everything. So we can put that off to the side for now. Take a look at the main jet, get that out of there. That is clogged. We can see pretty heavily clogged there. It's a good thing we went through it. See if this pin pushes out. I don't think it's going to. Let's see. Nope. That shot across the room there. Got the pin out. That punch is worth its weight in gold. Alright, let's take a look at the needle. It doesn't look too bad. The seat looks good in there, really good. Alright, we can punch out the emulsion tube. Tap, pop right out of there. There we go. Looks good. These lines we can pop off of here, clear those out. Alright, and then there's a pilot in here. See if that was clogged. Alright, came right out. Oh, that was clear. Huh. So pilot was clear. That's crazy. We've got a 40 pilot in there. Let's see what the main jet was. 130 for the main. Alright, then we've got the air screw right here. We are 1. Exactly 2 turns out on the air screw. spring in there. I don't think there's an O-ring in there. Quick check. Nope. All right, so that's basically it. We're going to clean off as much of this gunk as we can before we put it in the ultrasonic cleaner. Mostly it's like mouse hair coming off. Gross. Yum, yum. But the ultrasonic cleaner should take care of that pretty quick. It should be cleaned up in no time. Alright, get the carb in. Set this to 30 minutes. And it should only take probably 10. Alright, took about 20 minutes in the ultrasonic cleaner. Bowl is perfect now. Looks good. Carb looks brand new. Turned out really nice. So all the gunk is off of it, all the jets are clear. Looking good, so we can get this carb back together. Alright, carb looking brand new. Let's get that back on the machine here. Looking really good. That turned out great. We can get the slide back in and our choke back on. So let's see if our choke is working. Yep. So that goes in right here. Our slide goes back in. I'm gonna clean that off a little bit. Looking a little crusty. This has been sitting for a couple weeks here. Clean that off. So the cutout notch part is going towards the air filter. Let's see, which way do we want to go with this? There we go. Make sure everything's working. Yep, slide feels good. All right, we can get that installed. And then our oil line goes directly to the carb. I don't know why that's on there. That should not be on there. Our oil line goes to the side of the carb right here. Alright, that looks good. Get that attached down here. Alright, we got the carb in there. Here's the oil line. It's clear, which we can see now if the oil is getting pumped to the carb right here. So we can keep an eye on that once we first start up this machine. Alright, tighten down this clamp. Alright, carb's on there. Alright, everything's working good. Alright, here is the old filter. It doesn't look too bad, but Power Sports Nation provided one with the engine, so we're going to use that one instead. I think it's the whole filter, so we can just put that one off the side. See what this one looks like. I don't know if the cage is in there or not. Does it have to be? I don't think so. There's a clamp for it. Yeah, this is just a paper filter. The foam one prevents more dust and dirt from going in. So let's use that one instead. We'll get that clamped down and we should be good to go. It looks like it's all oiled up, ready to go. Filter looking good, all clamped down. Air box is on. All right, we can get the lid on and that will be done. All right, let's get this exhaust flange off of here. I wonder if the engine has studs already on it. Let's see. Yes, it does, at least. And their gasket comes off. And then we have our new gasket here. It's gonna go on just like that. Get the header pipe on. Springs are going on next. Got the springs down below on. Now these just have to go on. These are the hard ones. Come on, get in there. All right. That looks pretty good. All right, last video we took the headlight off and there's a huge mouse nest in here. Let's vacuum that up. All right, looking at the brown wire right here that was cut, we're going to attach that again. It looks like that's a ground wire for the stator, so that's pretty important. So we definitely want that to be grounding out. One end in there, one end in there. All right, now that everything's hooked up and ready to go, we're going to lube up the cylinder with some oil because I believe the engine was shipped dry. So get the spark plug out of here. See what this plug looks like. I'm sure they put a brand new one in. Yep, brand new plug. So this is an NGK BR8ES plug. And like I said before, we have no idea if this thing has spark. So obviously we're gonna test for spark, test the electric start, see if that's working, and kind of go through this thing. So first thing, we're gonna lube the cylinder before we turn it over. Going down, some coated. Dump that in. Let's see what happens when we turn this thing over. I turn this on, neutral light lit up. Does it turn over? Oh yeah. Oh yeah, piston's going up and down. Almost sounds like the clutch is hitting this cover. Let me see. Kind of feels like it is. Kind of feels like the clutch is hitting the cover, but we'll worry about that in a second here. Let's test for spark. All right, tail light's working. Neutral light's working. Is the headlight working? Oh yeah, headlight's working too. Cool, everything's working. Let's see if it sparks. Please spark. Oh yeah, it's sparking. Oh yeah, great spark. Get that plug back in. We might have to take that cover back off and see what's going on with that clutch. Well, we took off the clutches and found the grinding problem. The cover I put on wrong. You can see it was grinding that. The cover I put on wrong. This piece right here was over that mount there. So this was on the other side of that mount. So it was rubbing on the inside of this cover, the clutch was. So we took off the backing plate and then put it on correctly, so now it's on there. So now that can be bolted down to that peg. Yeah, before it was in front of that. So we make mistakes, but at least we can fix them. All right, let's see if that sounds any better. Oh yeah. That is much better, no more grinding. So clutch is all fixed. All right, let's go get the gas tank emptied out. Get this thing filled back up with some 40-1 for the first start. And we'll attempt to fire this thing up for the first time. All right, all that old gas out. All right, for the first start, we're going to be adding 40-1 just to lubricate that cylinder and piston while we wait for that pump to pump oil through that line to the carb. And then once we know that, we can do it straight gas. All right, it's getting gas. We turned it on reserve. Gas was coming out of the gas line, and it looks like the carb's filling up and it's not leaking. So looks like we're all set to go for the first start here. All right, before the first start, let's quick crack the bleeder screw on the oil pump. It's right there. So this one right, I don't know if you guys can see it. It's the top one right there. It's that 10mm. See if we can get to it. All right, we've got good spark. We've got fuel going to the carb. Carb's all cleaned out. New air filter. I'm assuming it has compression. It's a brand new rebuild engine. So she should fire up. Let's see what happens. Choke it. Sweet. Fired right up though. I think we have an air leak somewhere. I think it's by the carb. It's only running with the choke on. Yeah, as soon as I turn the choke off, it revs up. So we're gonna check and see what the jets are in the carb and see if they match up with the stock. It seems like it's really running out of gas. I checked the gas line again. Gas is coming out perfectly, so it's not that. All right, I think we have an air leak at the manifold. So I sprayed a bunch of brake cleaner in there while it was trying to rev up, and the idle goes back down. So it's sucking in gas from the manifold, I believe. All right, so taking off the boot. Check this out. I think we found the problem. Where is my flashlight at? So in here, I noticed that there's some imperfections. So there's a little hole here and a little one right there. I took my pick and kind of went through there, and it was all cracked underneath that hole. So it wasn't that bad, but I just kind of poked around in there. And then on the outside, I can see cracking. Where is it? Right there. See how it's cracking right there in the corner? So I'm wondering if that hole in there is allowing air to escape right there. So what we're gonna do, yeah, you can see how big of a crack that is right there. See that? So it's a pretty substantial crack in that. See if that goes all the way through there. It's definitely not great. So what we're gonna do is put some epoxy on that, on the outside, and we'll see if that fixes our problem. The inside, I think, is fine as long as that doesn't go to the outside. We should be fine. So let's mix up some epoxy and fill in those cracks. going to the outside because I think that's where that air is leaking. Pretty sure. Alright, put some epoxy on here. So just as a temporary fix, we'll mix up some of that and see if that fixes our problem. And we'll look for a new boot. If I would have known the boot was bad, I would have ordered a new one. But it looked fine from the outside, first glance. So we're going to put some in there. Let's cover that whole thing. Alright, we're gonna let that sit and dry. Alright, boot is all fixed up. Let's see if that fixed our problem. Let's see if it still runs lean here. Alright, hard to tell. We're going to put the air box back on and try it again. Still sucking in air from somewhere. You could hear it rev to the moon again. I don't know what's going on. Alright, watch this. Let's start this thing up. Watch, it's gonna rev to the moon. I'm gonna spray around the car boot. See if the idle goes down. See, the oil drops when I spray around the carb. Yeah, I think that carb boot is past its prime. I think it's sucking in air from that carb boot, and I think that's why this engine failed to begin with. I think it overheated, it was sucking in air, it probably ran off on the guy, didn't know what to do, and it probably, you know, seized that piston to the cylinder. So we're having the same issue, you know, it's overheating because it's running so lean. So you saw me spray this carb cleaner around that boot, and you could see the oil drop when it was getting fuel. So it is sucking in fuel from that boot somewhere, and I'm guessing it's because of that hole on the inside and the hole on the outside. I'm sure there's some stuff we can't see going on, and I think a new boot would take care of it. I don't think there's anything we can do at this point other than order up that new boot. So unfortunately we weren't able to test drive this machine, but the engine sounds really, really good. So another huge thank you to Power Sports Nation for sending a brand new, freshly rebuilt engine. That was a huge help in getting this project to where it is today. I think once we order up that boot, install that, this thing should be good to go. I put the plastics back on it so you guys can see what it looks like all finished up, and it's gonna look awesome. This thing is a mint machine. And now that we have a brand new engine, it's gonna be awesome. Well, just got done going to the post office, and this was sitting at my P.O. box. You guys sent me a ton of stuff. I think we got 10 packages here. So let's go through it, see what we got. Let's see what we got here. Let's see what the message says. Just wanted to say thank you for your 2 Vintage channel. You should be proud of your growth over the years. I've learned a lot from you. From Brenda Hall. Wow, that's nice. Holy cow. Look at that. That's really nice. That is a spark plug wrench remover. Wow, thank you, Brenda. That was really nice of you. Look at that. So it's a swivel spark plug remover. That is awesome. I'll be using that all the time. Oh, these were kind of crippled. A gift for you. We love your channel. A little gift from Bob and Diane Castelli. I believe that's how you pronounce their last name. What could it be? Let's see. Oh, I know what this is. I don't have one. That's perfect. So this is a cable oiler. So you put this on like a cable, and then you stick your hose down in there to lube it up. That's really cool. Thank you very much for that. I'll definitely be using that on the older bikes and stuff that have cables that are rusty. Yeah, you put the cable end in here. Then you take your WD-40 or any type of solution, you stick it in that hole here, like that, and then it forces it down that cable. That will be a very handy tool. So thank you again to Bob and Diane. Let's see what's in here. Hey Joe, just the thing for these rusty tight casing screws and nuts. This will prevent them from stripping. All the best, Ian Fisher. Let's see what we got here. Ooh, that's nice. That is a really nice one. Well, we will put that to good use. Thank you very much, Ian. We're going to be using that probably pretty much every video. We deal with a lot of rusty screws. So look at all the bits too. That's really nice. What could it be? What is it? Oh, safety glasses. That's cool. Lots of them. Holy cow. Let's see who these are from. Oh, something else in the box too. Oh, my favorite gloves. Thank you very much. Let's see who it's from. Love the channel, a fan of many years since you and your brother Chuck were popping wheelies in the parents' yard. He got married, by the way. I think it was last weekend. I cover the safety of chemical labs. Don't see you wearing eye protection. Protect your peepers from Great Horned Owl. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. We will definitely be wearing safety glasses now. Ooh. Let's see. This is from Brenda Hall again. Wow, Brenda, you sent a lot of stuff. Thank you very much. The blue towels. You can never have enough of these. Alright, so if you guys want to send me something to my P.O. box, I know a lot of people were asking about it. It is 100 W Main Street, P.O. Box 32. So there is the address. Make the post people mad again. I think they're kind of annoyed with me having so much stuff dropped off. Could it be? What is that? Oh, that's awesome. Liquid transfer pump. That is really cool. So that's one that you don't have to pump. Wow. Thank you very much. That's a really smart gift. This will help you in transferring fuel. Love your channel. Donnie Brewer. Thank you, Donnie, very much. I will definitely be using that. Who is this from? Wow. More gloves. Awesome. That is great. Another little package there. Just wanted to say thank you for your 2 Vintage channel. You should be proud of your growth over the years. I've learned a lot from you. Another one from Brenda Hall. Brenda, you sent way too much. Holy cow. Thank you very much. More gloves. I can always use those. What could it be? Well, that's nice. So you put that on top of the valve, and then you can adjust it with this little guy, and then you can tighten it back down. That's really nice. We'll have to try that out. Let's see, this one is from Love Your Channel. I bought one of these for my hydraulic press, and it's a handy little gadget. From Robert Metz. Thank you, Robert. Let's see what it is. So he says it's for the hydraulic press. Oh, I know what that is. That's a little hand adjuster tool. Because right now, go over here. See this? You can't twist it by hand. It's kind of hard. This makes it easier. We can quick install that. I believe that goes on there like that. And then locks in place. Oh, that's pretty cool. Look at that. That's really nice. We'll probably be using this a lot in an upcoming video. We've got a lot of bearing suppressing. Alright, I think I know what these are. Ooh. You can always use these in the shop. Thank you very much. I don't think this one comes with a gift receipt at all. Who is it from? This is Ashha LLC. Thank you very much for sending these. I wish there was a note inside. I don't really know who to thank, but I can always use towels. That's great. So thank you for sending those. Wow, that is really nice. Let's see what it's from. Love your vids, Joe. Notice you don't seem to have one of these. It should come in handy. From Jason W. I do not have one. Wow, that is a really nice gift. Thank you guys. Wow. Jason, you outdid yourself there. We will be using that a lot. Let's take a peek. Yeah, that will come in handy for sure. Well, that wraps up the second video on the 2001 Polaris Xplorer 250 4x4. Unfortunately, we weren't able to take this one for the first ride today, but we made a ton of progress, and I'm pretty confident next video, once we install that boot, we should be good to go. then we can go rip this thing for the first time. And thank you again to Power Sports Nation for supplying the engine on this build. Huge help there. And then thank you to everybody that sent me stuff in my P.O. box. Really appreciate all the gifts people sent there. So we will be using all those in future videos. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Stay tuned for the next one. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And until next time, we are out.